The San Francisco 49ers just got what on the surface looks like great news, but people are already questioning it. Not questioning the news itself, but questioning the downstream effects, and I get where they're coming from. We're talking about that in this video, and I'm going to be responding to many of your comments. If you're new here, I'm Nate. I make daily 49ers content. Please consider subscribing if that's what you're looking for, and if you're already laser focused on 2025 like I am, then this is the channel for you, my friend. The good news, though, is that Dre Greenlaw is in good shape. We learned that middle of the day yesterday, I believe, and the fallout from it, I think, is what's most fascinating. So let's start with the good news, and this is fantastic news because you know what? Brock Purdy looked pretty good after he got hurt in the middle of a game. The very next day, did not look so good. Things started to spiral out of control there, and there was some concern for me with how Dre Greenlaw was after the game. I had a little bit of a fear, and the way he's messing with his calf on the sideline, just like I got concerned. Maybe this is going to become a bigger thing. You know, you go to bed, your muscles kind of loosen up. You wake up in the morning, things are tight, and all of a sudden things don't feel 100% right. Well, great news. Thanks to David Lombardi for tweeting this out. He's the first person I saw, so I'm giving him the credit. Dre Greenlaw checked out good from his return, is simply dealing with soreness, is day to day. Tim Kawakami commented on how he looked after all the things that those of us who are not there in the press room, we don't get to see these things. He said Greenlaw walked onto and off the podium last night in slow motion, was smiling but could barely move. My thought, this is the NFL. Come back from 10 months out, blast away on the field, then so stiff and sore that you walk like an old man afterwards. So I think we've all experienced something like that before, getting out of bed even, just like, oh man, I don't feel like a young man anymore. Well, that's the take from Tim Kawakami. That's the news on Dre Greenlaw. So what's the controversy? Right? Like, what's the problem? Isn't this genuinely great news? It seems like great news to me. Well, let's start with what we can all agree on, okay, with Dre Greenlaw, because the controversy is interesting, but what we can all agree on is we need Dre Greenlaw. We need him, don't we? We absolutely need this guy on the football team. Please sign Dre. Please sign him this offseason, 49ers, because my goodness, we looked different with him on the field, and then we looked different when he was back off the field. So I think we need him. I think we can all agree that Dre Greenlaw is incredibly important to this team, and we all saw what it looked like, how he impacted the team being back on the field. This interesting tweet here I saw, I think this was during the game, if I remember correctly, seeing how different the defense looks with both Huff and Law on the field makes you sick thinking about the Super Bowl. I'm sorry I went there. I know. I just said it. But, well, Johnny Dell's Football Academy said it first, actually. He said it first, so I'm going to feel a little better about it. But, look, I mean, I get that 100%. We definitely looked like we were missing these dudes. And in the second half of the Super Bowl is really when Kansas City's offense started humming. And it just felt very similar in certain ways. I wouldn't say that the Rams were humming necessarily, but it definitely felt like we let them back into the game with what was missing on the defensive side of the ball. It just felt like we were missing something. Now, I'm going to move on from that because, there's a lot of details there, and I told you there's controversy, and if you're sitting around waiting for that controversy, like, what's this dude about to tell me? Here's the controversy, okay? And it's all over the internet. It's in the comments section. It's everywhere. And you guys chimed in on the channel in the comments section too, so I want to get to kind of what the actual controversy is. It's nuanced, okay? But hear me out. So many comments and tweets like this in the last several weeks, starting with this comment from Oscar. We are done for the season. Play the rookies. See what you got for next year, okay? Now, I understand that's not directly related to Dre Greenlaw, but it is a statement, okay? And I've seen many statements just like this about Trent Williams, who did not look in the press box, or not press box, wherever he was up at the top. He did not look like he was going to be coming back anytime soon. But you definitely wonder then, if you're even going to fight to get him back on the field, because don't you just want to see Jalen Moore? Oh, what about the other guys out there? I don't know. There are 30 players on this roster right now, 30 players that are in a contract year, technically speaking. Okay? That's a lot of players. So there are a lot of guys out there that have to go out there and play for something. So yeah, you hear these arguments. Play the rookies. Let's see what we have. Okay, and I understand that argument. And in fact, I agree with play the rookies. I'm just not 100% there on don't play the other guys. That's my problem. Because I understand the argument for Fred Warner. Same deal. Dude's playing with the fractured foot. Like, just take his ankle off the field, let him rest, let him get whatever he needs to get right, and we'll worry about next year. Okay? Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. Let's not get into that whole thing because you know my stance. I want to see the 49ers build some momentum heading into the offseason. How amazing would you feel? Obviously, you'd rather see them in the playoffs, but how amazing would you feel exiting the season if what we saw defensively in the first half of that game, and overall pretty good in the entirety of the game, but especially in the first half, if we saw that kind of defense every single game on the way out, I think we would feel very differently about Nick Sorensen. I think we'd feel very differently about this defense and about who's really leading the team right now in terms of the skill set. We've seen shifts like this in the past, by the way. I talk about the Broncos a lot because I live here. I've lived here for like 15 years. It's hard for me not to think about the Broncos too with some of these things. And you saw what happened when the Peyton Manning offense, I think it was like 2013-ish or whatever, is like absolutely one of the best offenses, definitely the best offense that season, right? And they go in there and they get absolutely destroyed by the Seattle Seahawks, who lead by defense. Then 2 years later, they're the best defense in the league. Their offense is, yikes, Peyton Manning's throwing ducks all over the field, and you know what happens? They go and win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just crazy, right? So I think the defense, if you could see the defense play at that level, that first half of that game, all season long, the rest of the season, I would feel very differently going. I think we know a lot more about what we have heading into the offseason for sure, because we have Miami Dolphins, we have Detroit Lions, and we have the Cardinals again. If our defense could come out and show those teams some serious mustard, then I think things might look different. Let's get to more on the comments and tweets and things like that, okay? So this was Nick Bosa's take, by the way, on the issue. You guys probably already saw this as well. This was, I think this was like right after the game. Nick Bosa on how the team will handle the final 3 weeks, knowing the playoff chances are slim to none. We're going to find out who wants to be here in the next few weeks. Suggesting everyone's going to play. He even said it himself. I'm going to play every game. So as long as everyone's healthy, the mindset is we're out there playing to the very end of the whistle all the way through the end of the season. And I think even more energized by what happened with Devondre Campbell. Moving forward, though, this one from Bobby. We need to get Greenlaw re-signed. We need to upgrade the defensive coordinator and offensive line. I think we need to add to that too, by the way, Bobby. Appreciate the comment. We need to add to defensive linemen. I don't think the defensive line is where it needs to be. And I like Chris Kosurik, but I don't think we've been where we need to be. I'm not saying get Chris Kosurik fired or anything like that. I'm just saying I think we need to get some new guys in there as well, because we've been playing around with the defensive line for the last couple of seasons now, and it feels like, hey, let's go find a guy, not mercenary. Let's go draft a guy who's like the next big, DeForest Buckner or whoever, okay? That's the kind of guy that I think we need, of course. Moving on, though, continuing. This one from Zeke. I couldn't be happier with the way Greenlaw played, man. He looked amazing. I love that for him, and I can't wait to see him get better and better. How many of you guys are just like 100% resonate with that comment? That was like, if I could hit that love button like 100 times, I'm there. 100% agree with every single letter of that statement there. And I'll add there, dude, let's remember how young Greenlaw is. He's still got a long ways to go in terms of his prime as a linebacker. So let's hope he stays healthy. Let's take this as good news, positive news. And I'm not in the camp of the controversial take, in my opinion. I think it's a controversial take of like, let's just put everybody on the sideline and put them in bubble wrap and let's just wait until next season. I understand the argument of tank for the draft. I get it. I don't think 3 games. Firstly, we're probably going to lose to the Lions. No matter how good our defense plays, we're probably going to lose to the Lions. Let's be honest. I just don't see us winning that game right now with the way we've been this season, with the way special teams, who played better this weekend, but the way special teams have given up plays, I just don't see us beating the Lions, okay? Dolphins, I think we should win that game, but I thought we should have beat the Rams too. So what do I know? And the Cardinals, again, another game you should win, but we'll have to wait and see. That one could be a bit more of a toss-up than I would like to admit, if I'm totally honest with you. So you look at these 3 games here, you say tank. It's like, even if they don't try and tank, there's probably not that big of a difference that we're going to see in terms of the draft. And teams just don't tank in the NFL. There are too many guys with the game on the line, okay? And that's not to hate on Oscar. I respect your take, Oscar. I respect where you're coming from 100% because in theory, it always makes sense. It always makes sense in theory. If you would go back to the beginning of the season and say, oh, this whole season, this is how it's going to go, then you'd be like, oh, just lose every game. Just go lose every game because then we get the first pick in the draft. I understand that. I do get that from a theoretical perspective, okay? Now, where are we at? Oh, yeah, 8 days left on Miami Dolphins. I thought I had one more slide on there. Apparently I didn't. 8 days until Miami Dolphins, and I think you've got the 49ers defense looking as good as they've looked all season long. Dre Greenlaw, who's looking healthy. You got the mini bye week, which is going to help him as well. I think this Thursday game was absolutely perfect for him to come back. I think that was great. I don't know how much of that was strategic planning, like if he could have really gone against the Bears or not, but I will take this the way that it's played out because he comes back, he plays one game, has a nice mini bye, that, take his time coming back to form and coming back to practice and intensity and all that stuff. I think it's a perfect setup for Dre Greenlaw to then end the season really well, start to find some rhythm, hopefully to play full-on games because you know that our linebacker core just changed because Devondre Campbell's not going to play another game in the red and the gold, that's for sure. So, you know what, guys? This is where I'm at. Okay, I'm just being honest with you. Dre is good, and I'm pumped about it. I'm happy about it. I would love, of course, for the 49ers to have a shot at the playoffs. They don't. There's no shot at the playoffs. Too many things would have to happen for it to be possible. It's incredibly unlikely. If you're the sports gambling type, then that would be the type of situation. The odds are probably pretty good for you there. As far as I'm concerned, and I'm not condoning that. I'm not telling you to do that. Please don't put that on me. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to take this positive news, this positive perspective on Dre Greenlaw being healthy, and I'm going to say this is great. Let's see how this moves forward for the rest of the season. Hopefully he can find some rhythm, then have a nice offseason of, oh man, so much stuff to cover. So I'm happy with this one, and I'm hoping that you have a happy Saturday.